Well, greetings students and welcome to the first presentation on India. I'm going to try something this semester and I'm excited about doing this. In the midst of the readings, I always have these questions and I always pause and kind of look through, do some research on the internet to try to figure things out. And as I was working my way through this reading number 3, I had a lot of those questions. And so I thought, I could just regurgitate what they're reading, or I could take my presentations in another direction where I delve into some ideas that will help make the main messages make sense. So that's what I'm going to do with this presentation. And the essential question for this presentation is why Portugal spearheaded the Age of Exploration, which is going to alter the course of world history. Now, I know that this is a class on non-Western history, but in this portion of the course, in this semester, in this portion, 1182, Europe is going to impact non-European areas tremendously. And so we're going to start that process today. Now, in order to tell the story of India in the 16th century, one first has to tell the story of Portugal, of all places. Portugal, this small European country that had this amazing impact on the world in the 16th century. The evolution of events is fascinating. What set Portugal on a path to empire was something called the Reconquista. The Reconquista, you Spanish students probably are aware of this, was a 500-year march in the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal, to remove the Muslims from the land, to kick them out. Portugal and Spain acted in concert in this effort. Catholic brother nations removing the hated Muslims. The effort had the full blessing of the Pope, as you can imagine. This joint effort was successful, but would later lead to imperial competition between Spain and Portugal. But this is a classic, the enemy of my enemy is my friend situation in the Reconquista. The papacy, the Pope, was so thrilled with this effort that he encouraged Portugal to press the Christian advantage and attack the Muslims in North Africa. Inspired by their success in the Reconquista, the Portuguese complied. Around the year 1500, Europe was starting to emerge from its stupor. Forces were at work which would lead to the Enlightenment, which would lead to the Industrial Revolution, which would lead to imperialism and world domination. In previous lectures, I spoke about the superiority of Asian ships. This advantage was removed with the birth of the Portuguese Caravelle. A Caravelle was a small, quick, maneuverable ship that would allow Portuguese sailors to travel long distance. But what made the Caravelle special was the lateen sails. These triangular sails allowed the ships to sail against the wind. Soon the Portuguese became convinced they could totally bypass North Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. The sea route around Africa would be the way to gain access to the profitable markets and resources of India and China. Vasco De Gama accomplished this with his amazing voyage in 1497 to 1499 when he sailed around Cape of Africa, which is today South Africa. They were aiming to create something. Now this is a wonderful word. It's thalassocracy. Thalassocracy. This means rule by the sea. Nations who have thalassocracies are not interested in dominating large land territories. What they're interested in is securing strategic ports. This is exactly what the Portuguese accomplished in the 16th century. By century's end, Portugal's seaborne empire materialized. This included some incredibly strategic places. Mina in Angola on Africa's west coast. Mozambique on Africa's east coast. Muscat and Ormuz were both situated at the mouth of the strategic Persian Gulf. Goa and Calcut on India's Malabar coast, that's the west coast of India, Malacca in Indonesia, Macau in southern China. This small settlement in southeastern China was only returned to the Chinese in 1999. And finally, Nagasaki, something that you've probably learned about in other history classes as the place where an atomic bomb was dropped to end World War II. Nagasaki is Japan's important southern port. Pope Alexander VI was so enthused by early imperialism. In addition to profit for Rome, this quest was also an evangelical quest and had the potential to dramatically increase Christendom, the number of Christians in the world. He was, however, concerned about unhealthy competition between brother Christian nations such as Spain and Portugal. Remember, this is the same time when the Spaniards are conquering the Aztecs in Mexico and the Incas in Peru. In 1494, he sponsored the Treaty of Tordesillas, which was later expanded by the Treaty of Saragossa. These treaties literally divided the world between the Spaniards and the Portuguese. So for two nations that people don't necessarily think about much today, their impact in the 16th century was immense.